All right, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Before I kick it off to our presenters, just have a couple housekeeping notes for you all. First, your cameras and your microphones are off, so our presenters cannot see or hear you. So if you do have any questions throughout the presentation, which of course they hope you do, please use the Q&A button to send your questions to the presenters. This will be recorded and will be available on IACAC.org. So if you missed something and you want to catch it again, you can definitely rewatch this later. And definitely think about signing up for some other sessions. There's some great sessions throughout the next couple weeks at IACAC.org. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our presenters to start off. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Catherine. So welcome, everyone. My name is Christian Brown, and I am one of your presenters for today, here with two wonderful co-presenters. First of all, we hope that you are aware that this is Application Essay Writing 201, and you'll learn why in here in just a second. We are really excited that you joined us today. We're going to try to make the most of the 45 minutes that we have together, and want to just basically start off by saying, we realize there are about 102 other things going on in the world right now, some fun, some most not so great. And so basically wanting to validate that your feelings are very real. I myself have those same feelings and have a pep talk every single morning. But we also want to encourage for this 45 minutes today, this is the time that you're investing in yourself, in your application process. We want for you to get the most out of it. So I hope that if I can suggest, maybe you take all of those weird, stressful moments of your day, lay them to the side, because we know that they don't go away completely. Just put them to the side, and let's use this time to be really productive and, again, invest in ourselves. So I will turn over to Sarah to also introduce herself, and then on to Karin, and we'll get moving with our presentation.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sarah Goldman, and I am here with the University of Oregon. Thank you, Christian, so much for that wonderful intro for us. I'm just really excited to be here. I do hope you will ask questions, and I hope that you find this information valuable.
Good afternoon. My name is Karin Smith, and I work at Beloit College in Beloit, Wisconsin, just up the road from many of you if you are in the Chicago area. I have worked in college admissions for a long time. It never gets old. And application essays are my very favorite part of the process. So thank you for joining us.
Awesome. Thank you, ladies. So we'll go ahead and get to moving. So obviously this essay is titled 201, but this section is going to be 101 to the beginning parts of that process. I'm talking about the basics. I think between the three of us, we've all had a student or 100 students who said, I have no idea where to start. That is very normal. This is your first time doing this application process, probably your first time writing this type of essay. And so here are just a couple of things to start off with or think about when you get through that process. And so the first thing I think that most of us usually say to students is, what are you trying to answer, right? Like, let's think about, what questions do you have? What things are you really passionate about? And determine what that answer might look like for you. Also, being practical, right? You've got a lot of applications potentially coming up. And so some students are very intentional about, nope, I need one essay per school. It needs to be perfect. Other students are very much of, I'm going to need this to work for a whole lot of places, right? Maybe you work, maybe you don't have time to do a whole lot of extra. So really thinking about how am I going to use this app or this essay. This is technically like a thesis, right? You have a point, you have an idea, you have something that you really want to communicate, and you want to get that through. And so really thinking about it in that light can be really helpful. As with any piece of written work, there really needs to be a beginning, a middle, and the end. And so making sure that when you're reading through that, it has those pieces. This seems really simple, but like word limits are real. And so really thinking about, did I go over it? Did I meet it? Do I even know what it is? Like those are the things you really want to ask yourself in regards to kind of what those, those limitations or requirements are for writing this type of essay. My favorite, have you proofread it? That's important. It's so important. We say it like numerous times today. So make sure you remember that. As a college admissions person, I think probably Sarah and Karen will both agree. It is really rough to read essay with a whole bunch of typos and misspelled words and things of that nature. So very important. And then also when you go back, right? So we've gotten some things written. We've thought about what we want our essay to look like, or maybe even did a draft, right? Thinking about, did I answer my question? So going back through that, you know, will the school like me based on this essay? You know, will this be a good predictor of really who I am and communicate that effectively? And remembering too, I tell students this all the time, if you are an excellent student and you're a top grade student, this essay is part of showing you as that whole picture, right? So when your essay is weak, we kind of start to question you as a student, and that's just the honest truth. So it's really gonna, again, feed into this whole idea of being a well-rounded student with a lot of really great things to offer. And like I said, we're gonna say this multiple times, you really need to have someone proofread it. You really need to go through that spell check, and you really need to check in on that formatting. So the good news, because there's good news, believe it or not, the good news to all of this is it's really, really difficult to write a bad essay. I like to think of the essay writing as, did you try, start, even think about it? That's a good first step. And then really thinking about, you know, what is typical that we see? We read a lot of decent essays, right? Like we wouldn't say that most of our essays that we read are bad. I don't think that's a good depiction of what we see as college admissions folks. And we really, really want your essays to be great. I think I've heard Karen say and Sarah say multiple times, you know, that's the way we get to know you. And so we really, really, really want to like your essay and to get to know more about you. One of the things I think about too, you know, in anything in life that is really worth saying, sometimes it's really hard to find words to articulate it. That can be something that's really difficult to talk about. That could be something that's really emotional to talk about. Those are oftentimes though the things that are so powerful in your essays. And so I charge you to, you know, when you get to that point and say, oh, I don't know about this, go ahead, do it, find a way to articulate it and get some help with that process if you need to. And at the end of the day, this is for us to know who you are. It's not for us to know what you know, right? So we just want to make sure that we know who you are as a human and we know how you'll fit into the grand scheme of things. So what is really the purpose of this, right? So if you're thinking, I don't even know what y'all do with these essays. Well, this is kind of what we do with these essays. We obviously read them, but it really shows three main things. We want to know that you have ability to be really successful in a college space. How you write, communicate, how you think, those are the types of things that we look at in your essay. And so when you communicate those things well, that gives us a good indicator that you'll be a really excellent fit and have the ability to be in a college campus setting. We also want to know, like, why did you apply to our school sometimes, right? What's your intent for even going to college, going to this specific college or seeking out this school? And then again, just how do you think, right? Do you look at one small thing and say, oh, I'm just going to do what everyone else does and I'm going to think like everyone else? Or do you really have the ability to create independent thought around whatever that thing is? And so again, thinking about how you communicate, what your ability is, and honestly your intent are the reasons that we ask for you to submit this part of the application. And if you're wondering who's going to read this, literally, we know most of these. I know most of these people. Somebody on this this here panel is actually in one of these photos, so I'll let you figure out who that is and where she's located. So we know these people, and at the end of the day, we're humans, right? And so what I tell people is, if you write something, you want to write it as if you're writing to another human. You're not writing to a computer. Like, we sit down on computers and we read your essay, but it's absolutely us taking in that information, right? And so thinking about, you know, these are folks with emotions. These are folks with families. These are folks who've had very different backgrounds and experiences. And so when you're writing, we are actually able to relate to those things. And so, you know, if you're writing an essay that's not saying a whole bunch, think about, you know, I want my reader to really be able to identify with the emotions of this essay and the things that I really want to create. So these are some of the fun folks who'll be reading your essays, I'm sure, this fall.
All right, so thank you so much for that, Christian. Now to get a little bit into the 201 part. So when you are really wanting to take it to the next level, some things I want you to think about is, what is the frame that you're using to set your essay? Do you want to really highlight some extracurricular involvement or some things that you've been involved with outside the classroom that really, you know, highlight the type of student you're going to be? Did you have something happen and maybe you need to explain some grade issues or some behavioral issues? Or do you want to show that school or those variety of schools that you have this incredible intellectual spark and you're going to get to their college campus and set the world on fire? Or are you really trying to say, you know, I'm the right fit for your campus and this is why? I think it's always important during this process to take the opportunity to take a step back and say, wow, I've done a lot. I've survived high school for over 3 years. I'm going to graduate from high school. I've done some pretty incredible things. So the application essay is a really good place to take that step, take that pause and realize, wow, not only am I going to go to college and do a great job, but I've done some pretty incredible things so far. So always take that opportunity. The best essays we read have two things in common. They really involve authenticity and empathy. And we're going to get into definitions and what that really means in a college essay setting. So first, when I think about authenticity, I think about asking, you know, who am I really at my core? What do I love? What makes me happy? Why do I want to go to college at all? Specifically, why do I want to go to this college? And then what do I want them to sort of have in their mind about me as they're reviewing my application materials and thinking to themselves, does this student, you know, do I think that we're the right fit for this student? Are we the place that's going to help them get to that next level? It's really important when we're talking about authenticity and thinking about authenticity, keep noticing I'm using the word I. I'm not saying, what do my parents love? What do my parents look for in a college, right? We know when your parents write your essays, and it's really sad because we go through your transcript and we say, oh, this kid is so smart. And then we go through your extracurricular activities and we say, oh, this kid is so involved. And then I get to the essay and it's not in your voice, it's in someone else's voice. And then I just get really disappointed. So please, please, you are perfectly capable of writing a fantastic essay. Don't have your parents write your essay, or anyone else for that matter. Empathy. Now perhaps more than ever. As Christian said, it's important to think about who is reading your application and who is going to be reading that essay. Have they taken the extravagant vacation that you're thinking about writing about? Do they feel that same way about the political issue that you're taking a stand on? Did they win the state championship in whatever, you know, sport you're mentioning? Maybe. Probably not. But what you can count on is that they've experienced failure and success, and they have been sadder than they thought possible, and disappointed and embarrassed, and also enlightened and joyful. So when you can connect on those levels, on those emotional levels or those thoughtful levels, that makes a better essay rather than trying to hold something over someone else or really trying to convince somebody of something else, because you don't know where they're coming for. You might know who's reading your application essay, you might not, but when you think more about, you know, how are they reading my essay? Why are they reading my essay? I think those are the better essays I read, from students that are really extra thoughtful about really, you know, what they're trying to get across. And then a quick note about storytelling. Storytelling is really, you know, what this is all about. We want to get to know you through your writing. These are some of the essays that we read a lot. You can see my little board kitty in the corner. I'm not saying that you need to stay away from these topics. I'm just saying that if you are hoping that your essay is going to stand out, it will be more difficult if you choose what I learned from winning, losing, or playing the game, or injuring myself and missing the season. Lessons I learned from sports is probably the #1 essay topic that is read in admissions offices all over the country. We also read a lot of lessons I learned from service, dealing with the effects of the sickness or passing of a loved one. And then increasingly, we're reading essays about working through depression and anxiety. Again, all of those are wonderful essays, and some of the best essays I've ever read have been about all of those topics. But if you're thinking to yourself, okay, how do I really make my essay stand out? Keep in mind that we're going to read a lot about those 4 topics. No matter what you write, and thinking about storytelling, it's important to remember you need to write that essay about you and not the thing that happened to you, or the worst trap at all, tell me the story of the thing that happened to someone else. I can't tell you how many times I read a wonderful essay about someone's grandparent and I get to know the grandparent in really specific, beautiful detail. But the grandparent isn't going to come to my college. And so that's a wasted opportunity for you to tell me about yourself. Keep that in mind. Some other things to think about. There's always different ways to frame a story. So breaking my leg was the hardest thing I've ever had to face. I couldn't play football. That's one story, right? That's a thing that happened to you. But when I broke my leg, I discovered that I was more than just a jock. I found my passion for journalism while using the leadership and dedication and team spirit I learned from competitive athletics, right? So that's taking the thing that happened to you and really making it about yourself. And I have a couple of other examples of that here, and I won't go through them all. But when thinking about telling the story of yourself, always, always think about making it about you and not the thing that happened. And again, if any of this isn't making sense or you have questions, please do feel free to throw those in the chat.
Okay, it's my turn, right? It's hard to follow these two ladies. Let me just be clear with that. I'm going to talk with you a little bit about 4 different kinds of general questions that you may see in college applications that are your prompts for your essay. Before I do that, I want to give you a little bit of a different perspective. When I read applications, and I've been kind of intentional to work at some schools that place a pretty high emphasis on writing. When an application comes to me, I read the student's essay first. I figure out how to get to the essay before I know anything about the student, where you're from, where you went to high school, what you did, what your transcript looks like. I go to your essay first, and I let that be the table setter for how I'm going to look at everything else in your application. And I do it for a couple of reasons. First of all, I know that this is what many of you stress over most, so I feel like I kind of owe that to you. Also, because it's the one place in your application that is going to be unique, we hope, and that you control in the moment yourself. And so I feel like I want to see what you're going to say about yourself first before I see everything else. Okay, the 4 questions, the 4 kinds of questions. Here's one, right? So provide 1 or 2 essay subjects that interest you, right? So it's a general question. It's a very general question that gives you a whole bunch of leeway as to how you might answer this, which is both delightful on one hand, because the world is your oyster, but daunting on the other, because it's like the world is your oyster. What are you going to talk about? Don't make up drama if drama doesn't exist in your life. If you're going to talk about an experience or a person who's influenced you, be specific, right? If it's going to be a national figure that many of us know, we're going to know about that person. If it's going to be someone that only you know, tell us about you, not the person. A perspective on an issue. Let's make sure you have one first. A passionate one that you can really write about, that you can talk about, that you argue with people about sometimes, that you really think about, because otherwise it's going to fall really flat. Another kind of question you might get, the academic personal statement question. Why do you want to come to my school? Why do you believe it would be a good fit for me? Don't tell us what we've already told you on our website. Right? This is where students go wrong a lot. You reiterate to us something that we already know. We want to know why our school is important to you. So don't go to our website and say, oh, well, there's this, this, and this. Identify, explain academic strengths and weaknesses. Sure, but don't tell us something we're already going to see in your transcript. Right? So you're not a math person. I figured that out. Go beyond that, right? And that's one that I see a lot. Oh, I'm so not a math person. Explain any circumstances which have affected your high school academic performance, if applicable. Sure, understand that the common application and many other applications are going to ask you that question as an add-on, right? So there is a COVID-related question on the Common Application and some others that you're going to have the opportunity to answer if you'd like to. So I wouldn't waste your big essay with that. And oh, the Common Application, right? Over 1,000 of us use it. If you are applying to multiple schools that use the Common Application, by all means, use the Common Application, right? Make this efficient for yourself. And I'm not going to read you all of these questions, but there are several that you can choose from. Be sure whichever one you choose, you actually address the topic. Don't restate the topic. You don't need to do that, but address the topic. And of course, you know, your last option is, again, that big, delightful, daunting question. Tell us anything you want to tell us. And if that's what you're going to do, be good with it. Okay, then we have the wild card questions or the supplemental questions. And we've given you a few here. And some of them are crazy and some of them are not crazy. And, you know, you can read for yourself. What is your favorite candy? Like, why? Right? What is that telling you about Hendrix College? Are they a really sweet place? Right? Are they a really crazy place? But more importantly, how does that match up with you? When you see supplemental questions on college essays, what we hope you will do is say, oh, fascinating. I would like to answer that question. I've got something to say. If you see that question and you lean back and are kind of like, what? Who cares? Why would Hendrix College ask me this question? Or Beloit College tell me I have 47 words? Really? You need to think about what that's telling you potentially about your fit with that school. We were asked a question, actually in an earlier session today, are these supplemental questions as important as the main essay topic? And my answer to that, and Sarah and Christian, if you disagree, please let me know. My answer to that is absolutely, without a doubt, right? So if you're completing the Common Application and sending it to Beloit, Oregon, and Augustana, fabulous, you should do that. But we are three of the most different schools that you could possibly come across, right? So that's the general. When you get down to supplemental essay questions, and not every school has them, my school actually doesn't, they're very important. And you should not answer them. You should not do it quickly because you want to be done. You should really pay attention and give a good amount of effort to those questions as well. Okay, so practical advice. What? Oh, this is not me.
No worries at all. You're just talking and sounding so good. I was going to let you keep going. So a few traps to avoid. So you've heard about all these wonderful things that Karen has just talked about, but there are some traps that you can fall into. And so we just want to make sure that we highlight a couple of those for you today. So the first thing is blank changed my life. Okay. So great. How? It seems so simple, but sometimes people really forget to tell us how, why it changed, whatever the follow-up was. So I hope that you'll think about that as you start to write those essays. It was 4:41 a.m. The second one, I'll be honest, most reps don't identify with 4:41 a.m. anymore. So that's one thing, right? We're not old. We just don't identify with that time anymore. But also too, we need a little background information because we maybe haven't seen that time in a long time. So let us know what was happening, lead us into that a little bit more. So yeah, maybe those drop-offs are not as great of a great way to start off and lead us into things. The next one about, kind of knowing, I knew I wanted to be an engineer from day one. Sarah brought up a perfect perspective on this, I think, the other day as we talked about it, and really thinking about, we're not taking away that you've loved Legos and you loved that engineering perspective, but how has that perspective changed? Has it been the same since you were little? Right? Definitely let us know if you still love it, why, right? What in the world changed your views or strengthened and encouraged those views to go further. This next one, there are about 15 words that I stumble over, and so I'll be honest, between the three of us, we probably read this and who wrote this, because maybe we're wondering if it was you. Now, we're not saying you don't have this type of vocabulary, but again, most reps don't probably use these words all day, every day on a regular basis. So really thinking about, what are my word choices? Are they reflecting my age, right? The community I'm in, the folks I talk to? Just tell us in your words. We'd much rather communicate with you that way. And then that activity list idea on the essays are just really, really old, and that's about all I can say. So please, please, please don't write over your activities list. This is a space that has been created for you to be creative and to tell us these wonderful things about yourself in your words. That's already part of your application. Just don't do it in your essay. And then Karen already really talked about, about the bit about COVID-19, but just to reiterate, there is a place in the application, on Common App for sure, and most applications that'll allow you to use that space. And we don't want to discredit that is a thing. We can't ultimately tell you what to do with that space, but we do suggest that, use the space dedicated to it. And then if there's some other things that you think would be best for us to know about, we'd love to hear about the other creative ideas that you have as well.
Sorry, I upended that last point, Christian. I apologize. So what's your takeaway, right? This is where we say, okay, and then summing up all of this information that we gave you, we are gonna sum it up for you. Authenticity and empathy, you've heard it ad nauseum because it's incredibly important. Spell check is good, proofreading is better, yes. Your essay should be something that you are proud of. Right? And actually, you don't have to share it with your parents if you don't want to, or your guardian. It's up to you. We want to know your story, and there is no right answer, right? So there's not a right answer to who you are. Who you are is who you are. Surprise is good, shock is not. Every year we get one, and it makes the rounds. We talk about it. Sometimes it's shocking in a great way. Sometimes it's shocking in a okay. Consider your audience, engage us, please. We read lots of these applications, and at the end of the day, we're trying to determine if you will be a good fit with our community. You are the best you there is. Again, this is where we talk about, don't give this opportunity away to anyone other than you. There are a lot of people in your life who can and will help you. Not with this part, please. And the best of all, the best of all, the best of all. For those of you that are seniors, next time at this year, we all hope that you will be in person on a college campus somewhere, because that's certainly where we want to be. But what we know, and Sarah and Christian and I have done this for a while, me longer than them by a lot, 95% of the time, every student who goes through this process and really embraces the process has a happy home the fall that they need a happy home. And for some students, it's still at home, and that's appropriate, that's fine, right? For others, it may be very, very far away, and for others, it may be at a place that they never really expected, and it's fine. This is not rocket science, it's not brain surgery. Transferring does exist. It's not something that we ever really want to have happen to students. But I am the mom of a student who transferred, and it was the very best thing that she could ever have done. And she learned some really good things at that school she attended first, and she learned some even better things at the school she attended second. So yes, this is important, but it's not the end of the world. And there's just all kinds of other things to be overstressed about, not this. All right, so in some ways, I wish that we could see all of you, and I could look in your eyes and see what you're looking like, and actually see you in a 3D, because usually we do presentations like this in a school gymnasium or an auditorium, and you can gauge your audience. You can see, are they laughing at your jokes? Are they smiling at you? Are they falling asleep? Yes, this happens even to the three of us. And so what we're hoping is that you will give us a sense for how you're feeling about this. Ask us questions. You are about to get free advice from, well, you did already get free advice from 3 people who are paid by many others to give this advice. And so if there are things we can tell you, help you with, let us know. We have one. Should I read this question? There's a great question here. A particular student says, I plan to write about a cultural dance, how it shapes me and how it connects me to my other hobbies. Be honest. Is it corny? Is it a corny common topic? Hell no.
I want to read that essay.
Not.
I want to read that essay so bad.
No, and I shouldn't probably have used the H word, but I did. No, this, not corny, not common, and clearly important to you, and is going to give us all kinds of good information about you. So yes. Oh, well, how personal is too personal? It's tough, right? I have, sometimes I want to say, would you tell your grandmother? It depends. And I guess I would say it needs to be as personal as you need it to be. We've read some that have caused us to cringe. I've read some that have caused me to cry, some that have caused me to lose sleep, some that have caused me to really, really dig in to make sure that that particular student gets somewhere, hopefully my school, that they can feel excited about. So Christian and Sarah, you may have other answers to that.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, the only other thing I was going to say is if you have a good relationship with your school counselor, I always think it's a good idea to run it past the counselor who's probably known you for at least a little bit of your high school career, potentially your whole high school career. Or if there is, another trusted adult in your life that you are comfortable talking through that story with. A good thing to think about is if you are not comfortable showing that story to anyone else, I wouldn't send that as your college admissions essay.
Yeah, the only thing I guess I would just say is to don't feel like your essay is the only place you have to communicate personal experiences. So if it is something where you go, I need to tell someone maybe, but you don't want it written and you don't want it published somewhere, things like interviews and there are some other avenues. So I would definitely say, you'll eventually get to communicate things if you feel like you need to say it to someone that's trusted, even on a college campus, but don't feel like you have to do that in your essay.
So I'm going to read the next question. Going back to storytelling involving dealing with a sickness, is it a good idea to combine an illness and explain how being sick limited my social activity during high school? I would say yes. I think as long as you're not telling me the story of your illness, but instead you're talking about, how that impacted your high school career, I think that is a fantastic essay topic because, again, you're telling us something about you and how your experience was impacted because of that. So I think that's a fantastic essay topic.
I agree.
So I guess I'll take the next one. So someone says, would it be a bad idea to write about how I moved from a lower level class in Latin to AP Latin after being discouraged by my advisor and had to do individual work over the summer to catch up and throughout the year to stay caught up? And when I achieved the seal of biliteracy for English and Latin at the end of the year, first of all, that is an amazing story. I think it says a lot about your resiliency, which again, going back to our presentation, talking about, kind of the aspects of you as a student that we hope to see and hope that you would take into our college communities. I think it's all about how you communicate that story, right? Making sure that you're giving us the perspective of you as an individual, your growth through that process, and then even kind of, congratulating yourself in the back, telling yourself, boosting your own confidence. So I think a lot of the topics that, folks ask about, it's all about how you do it sometimes, not necessarily what the topic is. So to answer your question, I personally think that could be a excellent topic as long as it's done really well.
Okay, wait, I get to read this one, but you go ahead and finish.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to say one other thing. I've read a couple different variations of a similar essay, and one spends a couple paragraphs talking about the bad advice and then very little time talking about the accomplishments. And the other either doesn't mention the bad advice or mentions the bad advice as a passing thought, and spends the vast majority of the essay talking about, I worked hard, I worked my butt off, and I achieved, and I am awesome, and that's why I'm gonna come kick butt on your college campus. We all really prefer the second version of that essay. So don't rehash fights or rehash, bad experiences in an essay, because it's a waste of space to, you're not telling us about you, you're telling us about that other person. Don't waste your time with them.
Okay, I'm so excited that a student asked this question, right? So the question is, what is more important, writing about a topic that is unique or a topic you are passionate about? I think about writing about an extracurricular, but I don't want to be cookie cutter. Okay, so I have a story to tell. My very, 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 very favorite essay that I have ever read, I read a gazillion years ago. And it was, at first blush, a kind of typical, not unique topic. It was about 10 minutes of time before a state championship basketball game. And I was like, oh man, here it comes, right? But there was some drama around this essay. The student was a borderline admit for us, right? So academic record wasn't quite what we wanted it to be. Test scores, back when we cared about test scores, not quite what we wanted them to be. And so I had kind of, back when we cared about test scores, so let me say that again, back when we cared about test scores. And so I had talked with him about, your essay is gonna play a pretty important role. To add drama to this, he was a highly recruited athlete. Highly recruited by who? My husband. So there you go. So the application comes in, and back in the day when it was on paper, I open it up, I go to the essay, and here's what I see. An entire page and a half of words. No punctuation, no capitalization, no spaces. And I thought, oh my God. Oh my gosh, what this, did he not understand what I was telling him? Like, what? So I left my office. Actually, I was so nervous about it. Not only did I think he wasn't going to get in, I thought possibly my husband would divorce me, and we'd only been married for a year, right? So, okay. So then I go back and I open up the application. And the very first line says, this essay is about 10 minutes of time. I typically don't think in capitalization. And what was going through my mind? I don't think in capitalization and punctuation. I was like, okay, you got me. And what the student had done was to describe 4 things in his essay. Number 1, his relationship with his parents and his family. He was the third of 3 boys, all athletes, and he was going to go off to college. And oh my goodness, what were his parents going to do every Friday and Saturday night if they weren't watching the sporting event? Okay. Number 2, he talked about his teammates. Some of them, many of them, had played together since they were in 4th grade. And they were all going to different colleges and universities. And how would they all survive, right? Number 3, he happened to be guarding the leading scorer in the state of Illinois that year. And so he talked about some of the technical things that he was going to have to do to shut that player down. And the 4th most brilliant piece of this is he kept imposing time. 5 minutes to go, 4 minutes to go, 3 minutes to go. And so you get to the end of the essay and you're like, oh, what happened, right? So was it a unique topic? No. Was it original in his voice? It was. And so I hope that answers your question about, you know, is original better or passion better? You know, you can serve up original, or you can serve up unoriginal. Just do it in a way that you can passionately write.
I got the next one. How do I make my college essay not sound braggy? Brag on yourself. Absolutely take the opportunity to brag, 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 brag. Talk about the things that you worked really hard on and the things that you busted your butt and the things that you achieved. This is not the time to be modest. Your college application is the time to really celebrate your accomplishments. Don't worry about sounding braggy. Sometimes I read essays that make me take a step back because a student is talking about maybe an abundance of privilege. They're talking about, you know, their summer home or their yacht or their, you know, whatever. And that might raise an eyebrow every now and then. But students who talk genuinely about their accomplishments, this is the time for that. That's what we want to hear. Cara and Christian, do you have anything else to add to that?
Well, I would say that one of the things that makes that difficult, which is how I'm going to serve up the next question, which is what is a good way to start on a college essay? We live in a culture where we are not encouraged to talk about ourselves, right? Oh, you need to be humble. No, you don't. Certainly not in this process. And so for many of us, it's uncomfortable to say, look at me, man. I'm awfully good at a few things or awfully passionate about some things. So that's part of it, right? And this is a process where you need to kick that to the curb and feel comfortable to tell us how really kind of cool you are. What's a good way to start a college essay? This is the next question. Well, here's the mistake that students make. You need to sit down and have a good long think with yourself about who you are and what's important to you. Because if you haven't figured that out, and that's another thing we don't do very often in this culture, is to spend time thinking about ourselves, right? Now, we spend time thinking about everybody else and the whole world craziness. So you need, before you're gonna be able to write a good essay, you're gonna need to really spend some time thinking about yourself. What are you good at? What are you not good at? What do you love? What do you not love? If you're gonna be stuck on a desert island, what do you have? What do you need to have? What are those few things you have to have? If someone stopped you on the street and said, you have 2 minutes to tell me what you really, really care about, go. What would you say, right? And so those are the kind of ways to, I think, that you can start to, you know, list 20 things, gotta have it. List 5 things, I care about this. Get it down to 1, get it down to 2. So start to have some of those brainstorming exercises with yourself.
My little trick is I get real nervous around blank sheets of paper or blank screens. So I decide what question I'm going to answer and I just copy and paste that right at the top. So at least I'm not looking at a blank, you know, anything in a blinking cursor. And it sounds silly, but honestly, if that little trick takes 1% of your anxiety away, or, you know, writing out, you know, whatever, your favorite quote or your favorite song lyric or whatever it is, so you're not staring at a blank screen, that got me through a lot of classes in both college and graduate school.
Okay, so I think we have like literally 2 more minutes left here, but we have one more question. So the question is, my counselor wants me to write about how my concussions, yes, impacted my freshman year grades. How do I do this? What do I need to avoid when writing about this? This is not this person's main or personal essay. Sarah Kern, any responses?
Well, I've read those, they're real, right? And so if this is not your main personal essay, then you have a little bit more flexibility. I would beg to say, be factual with this as opposed to being creative. If it were your main essay topic, then I would say you need to be incredibly descriptive and not talk about concussions are terrible for a particular reason. all that kind of stuff. I think that with this particular topic and the fact that it is an extra essay, just be factual, right? I could not have the light on in my room for 5 days. I couldn't look at a screen for 2 weeks. It wouldn't go away. It happened as a result of a sport I played that I love, and I couldn't play it, and I was uncomfortable, and I was tired, and I was, you know, I think give us the facts on that one, and a little bit of, this is why it was really difficult. Sarah and Christian, would you disagree?
No, I think you're spot on. And again, in talking about similar essays I've read a few versions of that where a student says, I got bad grades because this thing happened to me. And then I've read a version of that which was, you know, this very real situation happened, and this was the result of it, and this is how I worked through it, and this is how I communicated with my teachers, and this is how I self-advocated, and this is, you know, why you want me on your college campus, because these are the lessons that I took from it.
Well, thank you ladies so much. Such great information. I know you could keep talking about this and give even greater advice than you already did, but we're going to conclude tonight. Thank you all for participating and paying attention. This is again recorded, so you can watch it a little bit later, probably in a week or so, again on IACAC.org. That'll be available. Check out some other sessions again on IACAC.org. And after you close your link, there will be some questions that you can answer in a survey. So thank you again for joining us.